Welcome to Fishing Britain. This week, we find out what a spod and a spom looks like from the carp's point of view. I take up a challenge. We also catch up with Dr. Stephen Marsh-Smith of the Wye Usk Foundation to see what they've been up to. And Aunt Glascoe Jr picks up a pike down in Fleet. But first, here's the 120 challenge. You know, you come up with some great ideas sometimes, but in the cold light of day, well, welcome to the 120 challenge. I've got 120 minutes, yes, 2 hours, to turn up to a fishery, tie the flies that I'm going to fish with, and then go onto the water and catch a fish. Remember, all the time I spend at the vice is time lost on the bankside. So it's a fine balancing act. This week's venue is Bigwell Fly Fishery in Redbrook near Monmouth. It has 3 lakes and it's regularly stocked with fish between 2 and 12 pounds. And the top lake is the clearest crystal watered lake I've seen in a long time. I've decided my plan of attack, so it's down to the vice and start the clock. Has it started? It has, oh God, right. Okay, I've decided to tie first the F fly, an olive F fly, and the reason for this is that I saw a lot of fish cruising in the top lake close to the surface, and I also saw the odd fish taking off the top. The second one is my favourite stalking bug of a hare's ear, but normally I'm tie it with a gold head, but this time because the water was so clear and the sun was bright, I decided on a duller white bead so it wouldn't spook the fish. And the last one, well, I had to choose a lure, so I decided on a Montana nymph. It was with a tungsten bead, so it allowed me to explore all the depths and get those fish chasing. 3 flies tied, now to set the rods up. Now, I argued that I should have been allowed to put these rods up before the time started, but I was told no. So 1 rod rigged up, floating line, stalking bug on. Let's get up to the gin lake. You can see the lake. Problem is, everybody can see all the fish can see you. They've probably seen every fly under the sun, but they ain't seen mine yet. Seeing all those fish, you can get lost in the moment. What I'm doing is I'm targeting one particular fish. The problem is every time that fly drops on the water, they just swim away. Cast again, another fish. What I am trying to do now is setting a trap. Put the cast 2-3 yards further up than the fish that I'm targeting and allowing the flow, even though this is a lake, there's a big flow going through it and it's pushing my fly down to the fish. Unfortunately, fish after fish came up to the fly, turned away. It was very, very frustrating. I tried some different retrieves by short, sharp, jerk retrieves, figure of 8s, tweaking it. The odd fish would follow for a yard or 2, then decide to turn away. And at this point, I thought, shall I go back to the lodge and retie a smaller fly? But suddenly, a couple of fish rose. Now that means I've got the F-fly in my box, that went on. So I cast and cast and cast, and as every fisherman knows, put the dry on. What happens? Nothing rises. I might be back onto the nymph in a minute. Right, 3 fish. Oops. Let's get over there. Oh, ah! So it was back to the nymph. There it is, white-haired hare's ear. At this point, I wasn't sure which fish to cast at, and I was just dangling my fly near the bank, and boy, the sticklebacks loved it. Unfortunately, their mouths weren't big enough to get the hook in. So to my left, there was a lot faster water where the spring was feeding the lake. It was rougher, it gave me more cover, and it also gave the fish less time to inspect the fly. I can still see shadows moving, so I can target a few fish. Couple of casts, tweaked it around, and lo and behold, fish on. There we go, Job done. Challenge complete within 40 minutes. Now, if you know of a fishery that would be great for the 120 challenge and would test my skills, well, email us at fieldsportschannel.tv or post a comment or suggestion on our Facebook page. Spods and spoms, do you know the difference? More importantly, do you know how it serves up your bait? No? Well, let's find out. It's over to ROV TV.
Over the last few years, spoms have really grown in popularity. Recently, every man and his dog seems to be raving about them. So what we're going to do, with the aid of the underwater equipment, we're going to have a few casts, just using a blend of particles, a few bits of hemp, a few bits of maize in there as well. We're going to be casting out to a marker. It's in around about 10 foot of water, a few casts with the spom, a few casts with a spod, and just see what the difference really is. So let's get them out there and see what we can draw from it. Starting off with the spod, you can see that the force of the cast holds in all but a few of the particles, and once the buoyancy of the nose cone kicks in, it then deposits its contents. It falls through the water in a neat column, and even here in 10 foot of water, you'll see that it lands in a neat concentrated pile. So if we speed the footage up, you can start seeing the bait really building up. We're putting a total of 5 spodfuls out, and each one is landing accurately next to the marker float. It creates a nice, accurate, concentrated baited spot. So, moving on to the spom, you can instantly see how much more aggressive it is on impact with the water. It throws a bait out as opposed to dropping it in a neat funnel. If you watch as the bait falls through the water, you'll see the initial clump of bait falling down and landing on the bottom. Shortly after, you'll see a secondary drop, which is much wider, just floating down and scattering all over the area. Once again, we're going to speed up the footage here so you can watch the spot really building up. We use 5 of the large spoms, and you can see it gives a lot wider covering of bait, but it's also a lot thinner, a lot more gaps in the middle. So, as you can hopefully see from the footage, although they do a similar job, the way they actually dispense the bait is quite different. You can see that the spod actually keeps it nice and tight and more of a funnel coming down through the water, whereas the spom properly explodes on the surface and spreads it out a lot more. So something to think about, which one you're going to pick in what situation. The spod for tight areas, keeping everything nice and neat, or even if you're spodding into holes in the weed, that would be perfect. Whereas the spom for creating a nice spread of bait, or even creating a cloud over zigs and things like that, definitely the one to go for. So it's worth having both in your armoury so you can choose to suit the situation.
Now that makes you wonder what else goes on under the water. But it's not all about catching fish. We have to secure the future. And an organisation that's very proactive in this is the Wye Usk Foundation. And we caught up with Dr. Stephen Marsh-Smith to find out more. The Wye Usk Foundation isn't just another conservation project. The work they do here saved the fish in the river system and reduced the chance of future flooding.
We started in '96, and we started because we'd lost our salmon run, basically. And there wasn't any great impetus to do anything. People were always saying, wait and see, it'll get better. Well, clearly it wasn't after 30 years of almost continuous decline. So we set up an organisation to do the things that needed doing to get the fish back.
A controversial decision to stock the rivers, plus a catch and release policy, was supposed to do the trick. However, it was just papering over the cracks. The reason for the decline in fish numbers is due to river conditions, along with many barriers that stop the salmon heading upstream to spawn. Remove the barriers, educate the local farmers and ask them to restrict grazing from the river's edge and to reduce spillage. Then a very inviting environment re-emerges. The money to do it came from a true community effort. It involved people who were earning money from angling, actually reinvesting it.
It starts with a seed corn from the owners and anglers. They give us a sort of small amount that we then use to match against European funding. We then go to the Environment Agency and say, hey, look, you can join in and you can contribute, and they've been very good about that. And effectively, we've managed to increase whatever the anglers and owners have given us by about 12 times. So they've contributed over 400,000. We've managed to turn that into over 6 million. And I have to tell you, I would never have believed when I started that we'd have got so much support. It's been actually quite marvellous.
And the community effort didn't stop there. The Wye Usk Foundation managed to buy out all the nets on the river system.
When the fish were at their worst and lowest level, we had to stop them being killed and taken because we needed everyone to bring the next generation on. And the other thing we did was we tackled the commercial fishing in the estuary. And because the catches had diminished there too, we were able to strike a deal with the netsmen. And it was quite exciting because no one at that time was really doing that sort of thing. No one thought it was possible to buy netsmen off. But they were very helpful and willing sort of buyers, if you like. And we quickly raised the money. We'd become a registered charity by then. And we bought off all the drift nets, some of the putchers, and we argued with the Environment Agency about the putchers that they owned. So at a stroke, we'd got rid of practically all the commercial fishing in the estuary, and we got our own anglers to start putting fish back, voluntarily I should add, and we were up to 60, 70, even 80% in some years.
The rivers now have a healthy stock of game and coarse fish, and if it wasn't for the flooding, it would be a river for all seasons. However, there are still some species that Stephen would like to see come on.
Well, there are other things besides salmon in this river. We've got the other fish species, and brown trout is a very common one. We've got a grayling and a huge range of coarse fish as well. But there are other species we're concerned about as well. White-clawed crayfish and freshwater pearl mussel, otter and lamprey are also very important to us. And many of them are hanging on by a thread.
So if you'd like to know more about the foundation, its work, or how you can help, or if you'd like to book a day's fishing on one of these beautiful rivers, then go to wyuskfoundation.org. From one endangered species to another, here's David with Fishing Britain News. This is Fishing Britain News. Scottish salmon fishing in 2013 was mixed. The Ness District Salmon Fishery Board recorded a provisional total catch of 920 fish in 2013, up nearly 10% on the year before, and their best spring run for 19 years. However, the River Spey reported its worst season for 60 years. Actor Hugh Jackman is back home in Australia and enjoying his time off by going fishing. He was photographed near Melbourne fishing on a pier with his son Oscar and his friends. His next film is X-Men: Days of Future Past, due out in May. Are you in the Essex area on the 25th and 26th of January? Well, the Brentwood Carp Show is on and will include talks from accomplished fishermen including Terry Dempsey, Gary Bays and Darryl Peck. It's £10 for adults, while under 14s can go in for free. Visit carpshow.com. Scientists have found fish that can literally climb waterfalls. Reported in New Scientist magazine, Stimpson's goby navigates the freshwater streams on the steep sides of the Hawaiian Islands, which are prone to flash floods. They're able to inch their way up the slippery rocks of waterfalls by using their bodies, and, unusually for a goby, even its mouth has a sucker. It could cost billions to keep one fish out of one system of lakes. Asian carp, which have reached epidemic proportions in some US freshwaters, could devastate the Great Lakes if they make it there. However, the US Army Corps of Engineers say the fish, which can weigh up to 100 pounds, could find their way in anywhere along a 1,500-mile area of water. Keeping them out will cost $8 billion, about $1 billion more than the fishing industry in the Great Lakes is worth. You are now up to date with Fishing Britain News. Fishing for facts, landing the stories. Thank you, David. Why so serious? Now we're going to find out what's been hooked in cyberspace. It's hooked on YouTube.
Charlie Jacoby here. This is my weekly roundup of the best fishing on YouTube. First, it's January 2014, so here is the news. With pipes and whiskey, Ruth Dudgeon opens the Helmsdale River for salmon, a proper Scotch tradition. But there is more to fishing in the UK than salmon. Plugged on Twitter by fly fishing legend John Horsey, British freshwater fish underwater by Jack Perks is more than a year's work and still in progress. It shows the variety of our freshwater fish. I'm a big fan of Dom Fishing UK. His winter canal fishing shows how to spend a happy afternoon in January, but get a clip mic and take your camera off autofocus, Dom. Professionally filmed, James Robbins from Shakespeare TV fishes estuary water in the Lake District in order to give tips and advice on long-range feeder tactics for coarse fish. The excellent Matt Hayes goes in search of pike and perch at Eyebrook Reservoir as it opens to predator hunters, or pike anglers as we used to call them, for the first time. Here are his lure fishing tips. For more predators, the unstoppable Yuri Grisendi has uploaded Big Winter Catfishing by Catfishing World, offering, as he puts it in broken Italian-inspired English, big winter catfish for Michael in vertical with fireball and live bait. Now here's an imaginative film. Ultimate Fishing rolls the clock back 90 years in an attempt to repeat the amazing feats of pioneering American fisherman and adventurer Zane Grey. The team heads out from the Bay of Islands in New Zealand aboard the Alma G, Zane Grey's boat, with one of Grey's antique reels to find out how much skill it took in them days. Finally, some mood fishing for watching and relaxing, as the Reader's Digest circa 1970 might have put it. This is purefishing.com doing what it does and doing it well. Click on the links to watch the videos, or you will find them in this film's description. If you would like to send in a video for Hooked on YouTube, ping me the link, charlie@fieldsportschannel.tv.
Ant's been working in a shop in Fleet, and him and Pete popped out with a posse of punters to pick up a pike. One take.
Some of us spend weekends on banks with an assortment of tackle trying to outsmart fish. But when you're not fishing, there's nowhere else to be rather than in a tackle shop looking at more shiny gear and inventing new creative ways to outsmart said critters. Especially when the shop just happens to have landed an expert for you to fire questions at, and Tackle Up in Fleet did exactly that with our very own Predator Pro, Ant Glasgow.
I've been brought down here today to do a demo on predator fishing, where I'll be giving customers the choice of seeing me working lures on the local pond. I'm going to be showing them various tips, hints, methods, drop shot fishing, lure fishing, jerkbait fishing, anything that's involved in predator fishing. So these sort of days are really important for big tackle companies. Now I'm here today representing Savage Gear, and I travel all around the UK doing these shows. And today I'm going to be running people through something really simple like mounting a jig head on a shad. You know, stuff that you can see on the internet, but you need to see it there and then. You need to see how these products work, and it's great that you can do one-on-ones with people.
I heard about it through the tackle shop and online and what have you, and thought I'd pop up, see the man in person.
Did you just come down here to admire his beard?
Yeah, it's just the beard really, just the facial hair.
Our Pied Piker of Manchester is a firm believer that the products speak for themselves, and to show them at their best, what better way than to go and froth up the local pond, picking up more beards along the way.
Okay, so I'm here with a really good mate of mine, another bearded burbler, Neil Waite, and we're discussing tactics and soft baits and lures. So what do you reckon, Neil? Do you reckon this for perch today?
I think so. I mean, you've brought along all your Savage gear.
Yeah,
And I've brought my collection of eco gear along as well.
Yeah,
I've got some of the light rock fishing stuff as well, maybe for the little perch, maybe the little jacks. But we'll have a go. I've got a variety of jig heads that we do as well, and we'll just see what comes along and give the guys from the shop a different perspective on the lures fishing.
Definitely, mate. Okay, so let's rock and roll. I'm going to target the pike. I mean, this little mini deviator was red hot this time last year. Matt, what are you going to do?
Today I'm going to target perch. I just want to see a big stripey. Tiny little rod for a tiny little man.
It's January, blue skies, warm sunshine, and a flat, calm surface. I remember winter piking being, well, more wintry. 1 million fans squashed onto one platform, simultaneously firing out lures, seems a little excessive and unlikely to produce a fish. But it has! Though I would guess that it was more out of self-defense from the pike's point of view. The already low sun is sinking lower, and we have to move on to another venue. This one, although pretty, is one of Tackle Up Pete's secret spots, but it hasn't even produced a follow. So as the day draws to an end, we march on the canal for the last dying minutes of light. Pete has spotted some baitfish movement on the surface, and his keen eyes and watercraft has rewarded him with this happy jack, which has made a happy Pete. Ant, being very thoughtful and extremely well-mannered, makes sure that his guests have had a good time first, and then shows them how it's done.
Oh, he's got him. I've got him. Yeah, I've got him.
Well, mate.
I was walking past this, Pete spotted the prey fish getting hammered under it in the dark parts there on the opposite side of the canal, and Pete's first cast, boom, he had a fish. My first cast, bang, it was on, come off. Second cast, boom, fish. I love me freshwater fishing, but pollock fishing grabs me by the pollocks.
Well done, Ant. Now that's what I call last chance saloon, mate. Well, that's it, folks, for another week. I hope you've enjoyed it. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. And if you want us to keep you up to date, well, go to our website, fieldsportschannel.tv, and fill out the constant contact form. Don't forget to go on our Facebook page, hit that like button, and follow us on Twitter. I'll see you next week on Fishing Britain.